Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Outside Insider. Eagles training camp that's over there. That is now officially closed, and that summer has flown by. I don't know about you, but it feels like only a week ago we were waiting for this team to strap the pads on. OTAs felt like an eternity away, and now all of a sudden we're one preseason game away. We're 2 weeks from Eagles football. Of course, September 6th is when they will play the Green Bay Packers in Brazil. For some reason, they will be playing over there, but they will be playing week 1, which is literally round the corner. So all is done. The players' hard work is nearly all finalized. They've just got one more hurdle to climb. There will be one more preseason game left, and it's one that a lot of fans tend to tune out of. You know, a lot of more casual Eagles fans won't watch because, look, Jalen Hurts isn't going to play. Even the second string guys, or hell, even the third string guys might not be playing. But the fourth string guys, the guys who are fighting not only for a roster spot, but a chance to put some tape together for other NFL teams to take a look at. They're not just fighting for a roster spot. It's not Madden where they can just sit in a menu for 6 hours and wait till they get claimed in week 4. This is their livelihood. So those guys, those, 6th, 7th tier guys, someone, I'm trying to think of a name, something like Brett Toth maybe is the one that springs to mind. Also, I don't know why my internet's bad. Apologies for that. But someone in that level of criteria is going to be fighting for his NFL career. Like, this is do or die for a lot of the guys on this Eagles roster. So what I wanted to do before we got to Friday night's game and we went over the roster bubble and we went over each position, the guys that will be fighting for their spots, is just try and go down position by position, player by player, while we've got an hour to just yap about the birds and see who were the big winners, who were the big losers of camp. So for those that don't know, obviously I run phillysportsnetwork.com. I've recapped every practice going off of notes that other reporters write, talking to a couple people that have been at practices. Obviously our own guys are quite plugged in. So I've got an idea of, who's trending where and what players good, what players maybe not looking so good. And we can just get a gauge on who sits where. So if my internet lets me, I'm going to try and get the Eagles depth chart up on screen. It's been a bit of a finicky task over the last few weeks with my internet. But if we can do that, then we'll evaluate every player. So if you're new to the stream and you're hanging out, welcome to the show. If you could leave a like, that'd be a tremendous help. It's the best way to help us grow the show, to reach more people. For some reason, again, the internet is really not liking me today, but I will persevere. Let's go to some of the comments. Zach says, big haircut. We've got an issue with the haircut, and I promise I haven't made the internet unstable on purpose to hide it. I only asked for a little bit off the top, because I said to him I slicked my hair back, so just a little bit off the top, and he decided to just scalp me. And now it's not short, it's not long enough to slick back, it's not short enough to do anything with, so it's just this weird like mix of nothing. It's really not good. But the sides, I have to say, are great. It's just whatever's happened here, I'll be wearing hats for the foreseeable future, I think. Win is in. Nice to see you, sir. Eli Ricks, Josh Jobe, and some bottom receivers for sure are definitely in that mix. Hey, your haircut has grown into a 1 out of 10. See, I don't even know if that's an advancement over where we were when I last streamed here. I think I missed Mondays. But I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you whether this is an improvement or not, but it doesn't fill me with much confidence. But before we get to the roster, let Liam's beard watch. That's been a week and a half. See? Puberty has descended upon this. All right, we're here. Look at that. Look, I can even tickle it now. When I'm musing, when I'm thinking about, Arnie Smith and the routes he's got to run and whether they should keep him on the roster, I can sit there and go, indubitably. And that's great. I've never had that experience before. I'm excited to share it all with you. For those of you that can't grow facial hair, I'm 29. Don't give up, all right? Just stay with it, trust the process, and the pubes will cometh, I promise. What's up, Isaac? Nice to see you, man. No shave all year. I don't think that can happen because it's just going to end up with I've already got one rogue. There it is. Oh, hang on there. Look, one rogue hair just pops up. Even there, they're getting a bit. That's just not even following. There should be a line, a line that goes from the top of the sideburn down, and it's just started to go a bit like a night tick and just start flying that way. And I don't really know what to do about that. But it's also not reflected on that side. So here, I either cut it into a chin strap or I don't know. See, I haven't got to this level of puberty for a while. I don't know how all this works. But, it's insane Jalen finally threw a pick and it was already sat. So, yeah, it's crazy that he's gone that. I know we all kind of mogged and, jumped on ESP for the training camp stats and the quarterback stats. But at the end of the day, he wasn't wrong. He was just early, And I think that, in his defense, one of his rare defenses, give him his due. He was tracking saying Jalen Hurts is having a lightning camp, and it didn't take until 12, 13, 14 practices in where people started to jump on the bandwagon too. And they wouldn't have had an idea of that stat had it not been for ESP. So I think that's pretty cool. Your hair on your noggin and your beard are about as good as Kenny Pickett. If there was an insult that cut into my deepest core, that might be it. Because Kenny Pickett is awful. I don't think you can ask for much worse than Kenny Pickett. So I might have a crisis after this stream. I'll feed back and let you know. But what I will do in the meantime, Nick Wright was a real fool. Nick Wright's a fool of every situation, which sucks. Because I think for a while, I said this before, when he first, first broke in, but I must have been 7, 8 years ago when he was on Colin Cowherd's show quite consistently. I thought he was great. I thought he was a really good analyst and was very eloquent with his points and was quite assertive in what he said. And it's like he just kind of went up the other way with the fairies a bit and lost it. But, the game's the game. No, I'm saying that's what it took for you to get facial hair. I see. See, look, the 30-year-old growers are here. Cheerio, Eric. Nice to see you, my friend. Hope you are keeping well. Welcome to the show. Good to know I found the worst insult possible. Lovely. E-Money Bentley says, go Birds, and has dropped a like on Facebook. Thank you, my friend. I hope you're having a great day. Let's see if we can share this screen and it's not going to kill the stream. If it does, let me know. Let's start quarterback then. Let me know if you can see it okay. I believe this is actually working, which is a wild card. So kind of zoom it in quite a lot. Can you see that better? Yes, we can. All right. Start quarterback. Jalen Hurts. Obviously a win, right? Went interception free until the very final practice of the training camp. Looked solid throughout. And I will say this. I think that he's been benefited by 2 wideouts that have also had a great camp. I'm not putting all of it on them. Obviously, Hurts has done a brilliant job. But it's definitely counting with something when you've got a guy like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith who can make highlight reel catches on a daily basis and turn maybe slight overthrows, slight underthrows into those highlight elite level catches that not a lot of guys can make. So the trio are benefited. They're really lifting each other up. It's not a bad thing. It's not a knock. It's only should be, regarded as a strength. So I think Hurts has been a huge winner because not only has he been playing well, not only does he look apparently more confident, does he look, and feel more mobile and a bit more, relaxed in the pocket and poised. There have been reports early on about him maybe not taking the ball as much and staying in the pocket a bit more. I don't know how much that counts for in training camp. It's training camp, but you partner that with 2 guys that are also ascending on the outside, and a high tide raises all ships. And I think Jalen is sailing that boat very nicely. This freak of nature, Kenny Pickett, I don't know. If I was to describe his summer in 3 words, it would be very fucking bad. Excuse my French. Oops, got a bit carried away there. But it's just not been good. I think I said this on the stream the other day. I don't think there's a realm where the Eagles can justify to themselves having Kenny Pickett as a QB2. I don't care if they keep 4 quarterbacks. If you have Will Greer or Tanner McKee as 2, whoever it is, and you have to keep Pickett for the salary, then fine. But you can't keep him and have him as QB2 when he's looked this dismal. It just doesn't make sense to me at all. There's been no real cause for confidence. Nothing about his play has made me at least raise an eyebrow and go, oh, that's a marked improvement. Every practice report is he's missed throws, he's thrown picks. Every preseason, he's missed slants, he's missed easy completions, he's taken the easy routes. And I've been quite defensive of Kenny Pickett. I've said in previous streams that I feel to some degree the Eagles might have rolled out an offense where they're getting him to manage the clock. They're giving him one read concepts. They're giving him everything beneath the sticks because they just want to see if he can sustain a drive. Let's say 2 minutes to go, drain as much of that clock as you can, get down to the 30, put up a field goal. That could easily be the ethos, but it doesn't excuse the bad decisions and the bad play and the taking 4 sacks in 8 plays. It doesn't excuse any of that. So I'm not a fan of Kenny Pickett. I really don't think he should be there. Tanner McKee, overall, I would say is a win. I think I don't know. I'm going to put him neutral, if I'm honest. I don't think he's won much because he had a real opportunity to win in spite of Kenny Pickett. And he's had this weird tendency to start out both games quite well and look very gunslingy and then sort of tail off a bit at the end and get a bit ropey and get a bit scared. And I don't know if that's game fatigue and it's a lot. Because bear in mind, like, if he's a QB3, he hasn't played a full game in at least 2 years. Since whether he went to the Senior Bowl, I can't remember, but it's been a long time, like maybe 2.5 years now, or a year, and it's too long. So maybe that's part of it. But I think the fundamentals are there. I just worry footwork-wise that he doesn't have a lot of balance. He's like a wacky, wailing, inflatable, unfailing tube man back there. And I know a lot of it's because of his height. His throwing motion's solid. He sees the field well, makes good reads, is aggressive with his throws, but not overly aggressive to the point it's dangerous. And he feels like he's got a handle on the offense. Like, he looks kind of like a leader out there. There aren't a lot of opportunities in preseason where you get to flaunt that. But if you look at Kenny Pickett, where he just looks like a deer that's been dropped into headlight, like he has no idea, it looks like half the time. I think McKee does look more comfortable in that offense. So I'll give him a slight win. Will Greer, disappointingly, we have to kind of say nothing. We haven't seen him. He threw 5 passes. Woo! And that blows my mind. I said this the other day. When you've got a QB2 that's struggling, a QB3 that when he gets pushed up a tier, clearly isn't ready at that tier yet, and you've got a guy that has experience under your offensive coordinator, has started a couple games, is an experienced preseason quarterback, was solid at West Virginia, and he's getting no snaps whatsoever. So I don't know if he's got a dodgy right hand. I don't know if he's wearing an eye patch. Like, I couldn't tell you what the deal is at the minute with Will Greer. But it feels like a net loss because, there's not much we can say. Let's get to some of your comments. Got to pronounce that. I got to pronounce that. I clock in. Got to pronounce that iron clock more. Iron clock. I'm confused. Oh, sorry, it might be me. I might have missed something there. See, this is the issue when I check comments, isn't it? It's an I. Oh, it's an L. Oh, I see. I see. Right. How have I read that as Keok? It says clock. How have I read the word clock as pronounced the I in... Oh, gee, that's an all-timer. That is an all-timer. Like, it's lucky I've got ball knowledge, because without that, I would be hopeless in the normal world. I think we've all learned that. And now Isaac's comment makes a lot of sense. That is absolutely horrific on my part. Oh, dear, oh dear. Pickett just felt like having a brat summer. He is having a brat summer, He's just there for the vibes, listening to a bit of Charlie XCX, not really caring, just vibing out there. And I don't blame him, but come on, lad, let's get it together. All right, let's move to running backs. I realise this might actually have to be split into 2 streams because there's a lot of players. Saquon Barkley, training camp wise, yes, but we also I don't think he's done anything to win. There was never anything he had to prove. It's Saquon Barkley, It's like asking Cristiano Ronaldo to do a keepy uppy. He's going to do it. It's Cristiano Ronaldo. Saquon Barkley is going to be your bell cow back in that field. There's no reason to put him in preseason. There is no reason to waste him in training camp snaps. Like, you've got your guy there. You know what he's going to do. Average grade. Doesn't need to show much. Caught a couple of routes, looked good, picked up a bit of a knock, and they've load managed him. So, it's not a bad thing. You just haven't seen enough of him because you don't need to. Kenny Gainwell, I would say a net loss. A net loss on Kenny G purely because of Will Shipley's breakout. Like, Gainwell apparently today had quite a solid practice. Made a big catch down in the end zone for a touchdown, kept his feet in bounds. But preseason, the first game, I think he looked pretty good. The second game, the only reason he hasn't got a bigger grade is because Will Shipley's done so well. Like, Will Shipley's burst onto the scene as a rookie. Gainwell's in his contract year. He needed a big summer. Like, he knew, there is no Miles Sanders anymore. Like, he was going to be the guy because DeAndre Swift isn't there. Then Barkley comes in, snatches that away. Gainwell has to shine, and he just hasn't. So that he had to cement RB2 and he didn't, so it's a loss. Will Shipley, on the other hand, might well have become the darling of the offseason. An absolutely stellar summer for him. Clemson product looked great in preseason week 1, followed it up in week 2, turning heads at training camp. I don't think there's been a single negative word said about Will Shipley, and that counts for a lot. So, huge win, if not the biggest winner of training camp. Fourth on the roster here, we've got Lou Nichols. Now, I'll be honest with you, that does sound like some sort of department store where you buy watches and, perfumes, as Americans would say, and the such. I didn't see much of him at all, and I don't think they need a fourth running back. Like, he might well have a good game in game 4. Like, I think you got some work against the Patriots, but I'm just, it's one of them where it's such a hard ceiling to break into at that point where you just kind of have to take the L and hope another team catches on, which is a real shame. Like, you never want to wish that on any NFL player, but we have a Nichols gas station chain. See, I told you I was onto something. Yeah, it sucks. Like, I'm sure he's going to catch on to another NFL team, but it's going to be impossible when you've got in Philly Saquon, Kenny G, and Will Shipley there. Lou Nichols is definitely a cricket bat maker. No way that's a real person's name. They're all just NPCs at the bottom of the roster, I'm convinced. AJ Brown at wide receiver. I'd say a big win for training camp. Again, he's sort of in that Saquon role where he hasn't got to prove much to anyone about anything. Coming off a 1,400-yard season with 7 touchdowns, he's a baller. We all know he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. And he still ends up making highlight play after highlight play, punishing the veteran corners, giving Quinyon Mitchell some work. You love to see it. He only seems to be getting better, and I like that. So the same can be said for Devontae Smith. Let's put them both in the same bracket. Both of them have had brilliant summers. Not a single negative word to say about either of the two players there, and that counts for a lot. So your bona fide WR1, WR2s, they're both locked up for at least the next 4 years in terms of contract, and you can't ask for better. You cannot ask for better there. So let's have a look. John Ross. I'm going to put a John Loss, if you don't mind, because as improved as he looks on occasion after that opening preseason game, he's missed time with training camp. That counts for a lot. And it just sucks that nothing really gelled for him. Like, started off a bit wobbly at a time where Covey was just breaking out. Wilson was just getting looks in preseason. There wasn't a lot of look from depth behind. And just as he's gone down, Covey's broken out. Arnius, Simon has got it together. And he sort of gets left out in the cold. So it's going to come down to, I think, who provides the speed option more reliably between John Ross and Smith. I think at this point, with one more preseason game left, I would put my money on Smith. And that's not because I'm a homer, and it's not because I've been rooting for him for a long time. I just feel like he's got the upside there. Like, John Ross struggled off the line. That's the biggest thing I took away. Doesn't matter how quick you are if you're running into a brick wall and you can't get past it. If you get stuck in the mud, doesn't matter how quick you are over concrete, it will count for nothing. John Ross could not get open in that preseason week 1. He's now banged up. I'm putting my money on Smith. Johnny Wilson's a weird one. Again, missed a few practices now because he, it's annoying. Preseason week 1 was used all over that line of scrimmage. All over it. Like, sort of in the slot, on screens, outside, bit of everything. And then he gets a knock, and now he's missed time. And that will, again, count for something when you're trying to build out a roster. They could be tactical and kick him in the shin and send him to the phantom injured list. Like, that is a shout. How he just walks past, spills some coffee on him, and he gets a little burn. Accidents happen, is all I'm saying. Accidents happen. But if you're looking at this group to carry 5 receivers, I would say, it'd be Brown, Smitty, Covey, Smith, and I guess Wilson or Ngata if he breaks out. Like, we'll talk about Ngata in a minute as well. John Ross is the ways of receivers. Can't be bothered with a proper route. It's really weird. He can go forward very quickly, and that's it. It's like if you have a whisk, right? A whisk has a very, very niche job, and that is all that whisk can do. You can't hammer anything with a whisk. You can't scoop anything up with a whisk. You can't cut anything with a whisk. It's a one tool. It does it. At least a spoon, you got a bit more flexibility with it. That's the difference between John Ross and Smith at the minute. I said when we signed Ross, he can do anything but run fast. And yeah, that's the thing. Like, you need that speed option, and it started out quite excitingly. Like, he entered the press conference by saying he feels faster than ever, but not just in terms of sheer speed. That's fine, but again, you just can't get off press without being knocked off his route. And when you're talking again, and that was against Nate Wiggins. And I hate Nate Wiggins. I don't. But look, I'm using it as an example. That's a rookie corner in his first taste of preseason action that was happening. Okay. This is not an elite corner. This is not CB1. This is not CB1 and 2 of pick any team on that you're going to face this year on that schedule. You're not talking NFL experienced corners that have been and seen it all and have handled John Ross quite handedly for the entirety of his career. So the fact he couldn't do it against Wiggins doesn't fill me with a lot of hope. And for once, that's not a shot at Nate Wiggins. That's just the fact that if he can't beat a rookie cornerback that might not even be starting this year, I don't know what he's going to do against proper meaty cornerbacks, because he's just going to struggle. John Ross is the Marquise Goodwin without the Olympic storyline, or or any of it. He's just John Ross. He's just Marquise Goodwin, but if Marquise Goodwin didn't play football. I like Ngata about how good he is. And that's the thing. Wynn makes a good point. I think we can, before we get there, let's just quickly take Britton Covey out of the equation, because we can all agree he's getting cut. No, I'm joking, obviously. Tremendous offseason for Britton Covey. I think he might be the only one not named Will Shipley to have a better offseason. To go from where he was last year, which was a punt returner with a lot of upside, someone that was among the league best in punt returners, to come out of that and now be, wow, this guy's a bona fide slot option. This guy can't just run fast, John Ross. He can actually catch passes. He can do things with the ball in his hands. He can create space. He can make the most of open space. It's huge. He is a genuine option for this team. And to have that kind of growth over a couple of years where he was really just a track athlete to begin with, to be molded into a punt returner, to then be molded into a receiver, fair play to him. It's a monumental jump, and it's a very tough one. And you don't see a lot of undrafted guys do that long term. They're few and far between. The guys that will start undrafted and stick around. They might have a year or two. They might have a Travis Fulgham, serenade, but very seldom do they make it last. So big shout to Britton Covey. The only other guy I think to mention here is Ngata, who is here. No, sorry, I haven't talked about Arnie Smith. I have, haven't I? Arnie Smith. I don't think, have I? But not first person. Arnie Smith. I love him. All right. I think he's got all the upside in the world if he can just stop being, like he's playing football on Madden. If he can stop acting like there is no consequence to his actions. If he can stop the spinning, the dancing, the dance revolution, the jumping, the hurdling, the doing the 5, 6, 7, 8 dance, doing the YMCA, all of that with the ball in his hands, he'll be fine. And the second game, he looked much better. Like, he was much more within himself. And that's all you need. It's almost like, the way I would describe Smith at the minute is, you see people, if you go on a night out with your friends and there's someone that's all suited up, dressed to the nines, and they're smoking cigars and they talk with an accent, and they're finance bros and they talk about something. And they're putting it on because they're a little bit insecure, down here. It's all a front to make up for the fact that maybe they still struggle in life, or that, maybe some character, whatever. That sort of Smith, like, someone needs to sit him down and just be like, you don't have to pretend. Like, you've made it to the NFL. You don't have to pretend to be the second coming of LaShawn McCoy or Percy Harvin or whoever. Like, you can just be you. That's enough. We drafted you because you're you, and because you've got this incredible ability to get an instant release and gain separation. You've got a great catch radius. You're nippy in your routes. You cut very well, and you don't get knocked off routes during the stem. Just be you. You don't have to put it on. And if they can do that, I think he's really going to develop into a nice player. And we started to see a flash of it against the Patriots. And then reports came out today that he put together the best training camp that he has, or best practice that he has. So for me, that counts for a lot. Like, I'm impressed. I thought this would be a much longer term project to get him to settle down a bit. but it seems to be working. So I would say he keeps a spot. And Garter or Joey, as I call him, good game against the Patriots. I think he did well in preseason last year as well. I can't see him making the roster. Will be great to have a practice squad spot. I don't think he gets there. I think he gets poached by another team. Then Paris is a veteran unknown. That was the man I was forgotten. That's right. Paris Campbell, I would think, makes the roster if he's healthy. If not, it will be Johnny Wilson. Like, Campbell is the most reliable receiver they've got of that bucket that's vying for those final roster spots, as someone that is just a possession name that can work over the middle and just sit in space, box out defenders occasionally. Like, he's not the slowest guy in the world. He's not the quickest guy in the world. He's fairly well-rounded in terms of what he can do. He's got a nice bit of like build to him. I like it. So, yeah, that's that. The rest of them, Austin Watkins Jr., Griffin Herbert. Could not tell you who he is. I cover the team. I couldn't tell you who he is. Can I have a look at him? Griffin Herbert. Can I pretend to know who he is? Where's the number 48? From Louisiana Tech. 6'1", 239 pounds. It doesn't have a picture on ESPN. Didn't have a catch against the Patriots, but looks quite wholesome. Yeah? Looks like a happy young man. So give him a roster spot. Look, he just looks like a happy, I like that. Just looks quite innocent. Bring him on the team. That's my analysis on Griffin Herbert. I've also closed that by accident. Share screen. There we go. All right, so we've done wide receiver. Tight end got a bit of a shake-up today because CJ Uzama decided to bin it off. He got cut by the Eagles. And you know what? I don't blame them. I don't blame them for that. It was over for Uzama the second he got physically picked up and carried by Snow White and the Seven Dwarves in that first preseason game. 5 people lifted him in the air above his heads like he was crowd surfing at a pop punk concert and carried him. That game over. You're done. You're not making the team, mate. I'm sorry. Dallas Goedert, of course, is questionable because why wouldn't he be? That's just for Dallas Goedert. That's healthy. That's his normal tag. Like, there's nothing wrong with Dallas Goedert there. That's don't worry, guys. He's always questionable. He'll be fine. So that's okay. Albert didn't do great in preseason. Not a fan. Get him gone. And Grant Colgatera showed us a few flashes, but I don't think it was enough to really solidify anything. He didn't burst out. EJ Jenkins, I think, on the meanwhile, did pretty well in preseason. I think that second game looked very good. I think he'll make the roster as tight end 3. And if I'm honest, that also played a role, in my opinion, as to why the Eagles would waive and get rid of CJ Uzama. Like, they can exchange that for some tackle depth because Lord knows they need it at the minute. And they can rest their laurels for a bit on EJ Jenkins because he just feels like he's got a bit more upside to him. So that's your tight end position. I think it's going to be Goddard, Calcaterra, EJ Jenkins. Tackle, Jordan Mailata. Beautiful. No, nothing to qualm about. Fred Johnson is a weird one. I think he makes the roster. I'm not saying he's a weird person. I know you know nothing about him. Oh, so I know nothing about him. I'm 100% sure you only like EJ Jenkins because of the surname. What? I wouldn't do that, actually. What are you on about? What is his surname? I just thought it was called... it's Jenkins. Which is mad because my name's... Yeah, so at tackle... I was like, yeah, Fred Johnson. I don't think he looked terrible. I don't think he looked brilliant. I would be terrified if he got dropped into a live game. However, there is literally no one else other than Mekhi Becton who is starting at right guard because Tyler Steen keeps hurting his ankle. So he has to make the roster. Lakin Vakalahi is the one that followed through the International Pathway Program. So I'm assuming he's going to be on the roster anyway because they get a free roster spot. So it doesn't count towards a 53. They just get this little bonus bucket to keep these international import players in. And that's what I did with Mailata first season, I'm pretty sure. So he'll be there. I've not heard a single word about him since camp. Guard, Landon Dickerson, brilliant. Nothing to say there. He's just great. Trevor Keegan. I've clicked on his name now. Brilliant. Sorry, Trev. I think he's all right. you know, again, it's a rookie lineman. It's hard to have expectations for rookie linemen at the NFL level. Like, I think if anything, it might be the hardest jump in terms of preseason play. Like, to go from playing against college guys to then training camp and fighting against guys also trying to make a roster. I think at wide receiver and cornerback, it's a bit different. The power of NFL players in the trenches is incredibly different to what you see at the college game. Wide receivers and corners, they're faster, they're stronger, but you can handle that if you've got the skill set. I think the power and the technique needed, like at college, you can kind of get away with just either being very technical or very powerful. If you've got only one, you know, sort of like in a round of golf. If you're driving the ball terrible, but your iron plays all right, you'll probably play okay. And if you start getting good and you get to like pro level, you need all of it because the standard is that much better. So Trevor Keegan will have a lot to work on, but I think he'll be a solid option in the long term. Like a year under Stoutland University will do him no harm whatsoever. Max Sharping, if I'm honest, I haven't seen a lot of him. I saw him in the first game. I think I saw him in the second one for a bit. I don't recall any bad plays. So that might count for something. Nick Gates, I don't think he's actually played at all. So make of that what you will. Cammy J at centre, big fan of. I think he's been a winner this training camp just because he's got the spot and it's gone unchallenged completely. Matt Hennessy, I'm a bit disappointed by old Hendog. I thought he was going to be this little bargain bucket signing. I thought he would have the same type of summer that Mekhi Becton has, if I'm honest with you. As someone, again, NFL experience, only really slipped down to the Eagles at this level because of injuries, because he couldn't maintain a roster spot. I thought this would be the reclamation project to get his career back on track, especially with the versatility calling card, and it just hasn't really panned out. However, I would take him over Brett Toth at center, and Dylan McMahon isn't ready yet, so he's going to make the roster as the backup. I don't know how I feel about that. I just feel about that. So there you go. Dylan McMahon, I think, has had a lesser impressive preseason than Trevor Keegan. I think Keegan has looked more, from what I've seen, like closer to being NFL ready. It's really weird. Like with NFL linemen in preseason, you're just looking for them not to make a mistake or like not to get offsides, not to draw flags. Keegan's felt quite well rounded. Wins just said there. Can't get the comment up. Kings have been really good in preseason. I was happy with the pick. He'll be a future starter. Yeah, I agree. I could see him having a Nate Herbig type ascension, only obviously a bit higher given the draft position in him. But I'm about that. Right guard, Mekhi Becton, solid. Injuries concerning me, but that's fine. He's your starting right guard. I'd have preferred, if I'm honest, him to have not won the job. I'd have rather Tyler Steen won it, and you've got Becton as a backup in case Lane Johnson goes down, because he's started getting these little knocks now. We know he's had multiple surgeries. He's not the gladiator that he once was. And again, not in a bad way, but as you get older and your body wears down, things mount up. And there is a chance that even for a few plays, Lane Johnson's out, you need a solid tackle there. And they could slide Becton over and move Steen up to guard. That is a possibility. I'd have just rather that been a possibility where Steen has cemented the guard role because he's taken a step forward and Becton has to be the backup, rather than compromising two spots if Johnson goes down. Darian Kinnard, I thought looked pretty solid, actually. I think he might have been one of the few linemen that stood out in a good way throughout preseason to me. I wasn't spending a lot of time looking at them in the first two games, I'll be honest with you, but I think Kinnard had a few solid reps on the right. He didn't give up the penalties like Fred Johnson did. Again, I know it's difficult because they're going up against like third and fourth stringers, but I'm about it. I think he had a solid showing. Anim Dankwa, couldn't tell you if I'm honest, so I'll put it as an L. And the same with Gottlieb Ayedze. Doug Gottlieb. Playing tackle. Don't know why. On to defense. Tell you what, we're tracking well time-wise here. We're on to defense. For some reason, it's ESPN that have made this depth chart, which is interesting. So I wouldn't put too much stock into where these players are lined up. So I don't know what kind of formation this is, but you've got nickel, corner, two safeties, Sam linebacker, but then also the linebackers are just, what's an L? If that's Will and Sam, what's L and R? if you're going to do that, there should be a Mike. You don't. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, we'll move on. Milton Williams is playing on the edge apparently in this formation. I've not seen him do it in preseason, but I did speculate that would be a possibility earlier on. Just because they can in a 3-4. Williams has become one of those guys that can exploit multiple gaps. We've seen it in his first year or two where he's been lining up over the C gap instead of the B gap, or maybe inside the A at one point. Like, he's got his real versatility and explosiveness in that first step to move into some enemy territory very, very quickly, especially against tackles who are a bit slower. Like, he's this weird hybrid of a defensive end and a defensive tackle. So he'll be great, and an addition to the roster. In terms of working out who makes the cut here, because Jalen Carter's also a defensive end, apparently. I get why they've done it, because it's a 3-4, so Davis is the nose. I understand it just looks weird, and it's giving my brain a bit of a, So in terms of the tackles, Davis, very good. Let's just start there. Jordan Davis, I've said all off season, caught a lot of unnecessary flack this past year. A lot of friendly fire for no real reason. There was no reason for any of it. For Brian Baldinger to call him fat, I think is a bit outlandish, especially when it came like 2 weeks after he chased Josh Allen like 30 yards down the field and did so pretty handedly. He took it personally. He bulked up. He got more lean and looked more muscly. Had a good preseason. Had a good camp. I think he's made a good account of himself. Jalen Carter's probably been the more prominent of the two. I think Carter has made like a big play every practice, it feels like. Obviously, Defensive Rookie of the Year. This might go down as one of the best Eagles picks in history. And I'll say it now. If he can sustain that, it's hard to as a defensive tackle, especially when you get injuries and the like. But if he can sustain that over 5-6 years, there's no way that he won't be a great draft pick. To win Defensive Rookie of the Year, to really snap. He wasn't handed the baton from Fletcher Cox. He took it. He physically took it and was like, yeah, I'm here now. It's my spot. Jordan Davis was a bit of a slower burner. Both of them took a step forward in the training camp. They gave the offensive line hassle all off season. I'm very excited and happy to see what they do under Vic Fangio. I think like a lot of people expected this pass rush to almost lose some steam under Fangio or to take a step back because they're obviously a bit more conservative approach with the linebackers. But I think it's going to benefit them. I really, really think. Oh, did he not win Defensive Rookie of the Year? I could have swore he did. Am I living in some dystopian like Mandar? Who won it then? Was it Hutch? Oh, I'm confused now. I can't. Let me Google up my phone because my computer will throw a seizure if it tries to open up Google. Bear with me. I think I've called in Defensive Rookie of the Year for up 3 months, so that's not gone well. Rookie of the Year. I could have swore he did. Oh, it was Will Anderson. Okay. Right. Well, that's annoyed me. That's very annoying. Will Anderson. I've been hoodwinked there, ladies and gentlemen. I genuinely thought Jalen Carter won Defensive Rookie of the Year, and I'm pretty sure I've published that in about 15 articles. So I don't know why I was so adamant that he did. Maybe it's because he should have. But I apologize there for the slip up. That is something I need to address in about 87 pieces I've written. As well, Will Anderson. Anyway, he'll win an award this year because he will. Because of course he will. And that defensive line is a mauler. A mauling front. Behind them, I gaslit myself. No, I hand on heart. Like, I'll obviously, like, I admit when I'm wrong. I just thought clock was spelt Seok for crying out loud, But I genuinely thought he won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Like, unbelievable. I was like, yeah, he's won Rookie of the Year. He ran out of gas at the end with that 1-7. Yeah, that's true. I forgot. I keep forgetting that happened. Like, I'm always trying to erase the slump and the downfall of the Eagles from my memory completely. I'm really trying to prevent that. But Isaac's right. It's a good thing my articles don't end up in a newspaper. Maybe I haven't published it, but I'm pretty sure I have. I feel like I have. But as far as the guys behind those two, Milton Williams is obviously one. I think they're going to keep 4 or 5. I think Ojimo would make it over Tui Pelotu just because I think we've seen more growth. Tui Pelotu has felt like the same kind of player for a couple of years. And again, not a knock on him. He's good at what he does. But the top end of that position group has taken so much pride and so many strides in their development that I think they need to raise the floor as well. Like raising the bar is one thing, raising the floor is another. And I think they would be better suited if they had to keep 4 with Ojimo because he just has looked a bit more menacing. I think like he's added more pass rushing moves to his arsenal. I didn't know he had that in his locker for some of the stuff we saw in preseason. As Winter, he's been a hoss. I don't know what hoss means. I thought that was a bad word, but I think that might be good. So we're going to roll with that. If that isn't a good word and I've said something mean, Moro, I like you. Don't punch me. PJ Mustafa, well, he must have had a bad training camp because he won't be making the roster, will he? I shouldn't joke about people losing their jobs, but the name will... Look, it happens, all right? Technically defensive end / linebacker / whatever they're going to do. This gets interesting. Bryce Huff has had a camp. It's been a camp that has happened. I don't think he's done anything outstanding. I don't think he's done anything terrible. I don't know what role he's going to play. We don't know if he's going to be a 3-down guy. We don't know if he's going to be in that rotational role still. But realistically, Huff, Graham, where have they put the other ones? Where have they put the other ones for crying out loud? Huff, Graham, Sweat. Where's Sweat on this list? Where have they put half of these? Are there about right? Huff, Graham, Sweat, Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt. That will be your group, I think. Patrick Johnson might make the roster for special teams. I think that in a similar way to Jordan Davis, I think Nolan Smith deserves a shout. He's been excellent this summer. Made some big waves in preseason. Has looked good in camp. Very, very quiet first year for Nolan Smith. Disappointing first round pick. You expect more from him. It didn't quite come to be, but we're seeing flashes now of what can be, and that's exciting. So I'm expecting a big year from Smith, and the idea of Huff and Smith headlining that group. I think, if I'm honest, again, not in a mean way, we might have seen the peak of Josh Sweat. I think from here, he will probably sit into like a third down or rotational role behind Huff and Smith over time. Not this year. I think he'll have one more year. Whoa, almost knocked my bottle over. Alongside Brandon Graham. But I think long term, it's going to be Smith and Huff sort of taking on those more commanding roles there. Jalix Hunt, I really, really like. I'd like to say I was one of the first people that was bullish on Jalix Hunt. Like when we broke down his tape, I was a bit like, ooh, buddy. I liked it. I was a big fan. I think that was just a misconception that he was going to be used as a pass rusher when, if you look at his tape, it's very obvious that he can be so dangerous in that open field as an off-ball linebacker. So I think that's where he's going to be. I think Patrick Johnson's made a brilliant count for himself over preseason as well and should make the roster as a special teamer. Cornerback. I'm just going to get a drink before we do the secondary because I can't feel my throat anymore. Cornerback. See, what is this depth chart? Sorry, I shouted that. My neighbours are upstairs. So you can tell Lizzie's not here tonight because I'm just screaming. According to this, crying out loud. Sorry, I'm just looking at the actual order they've got this in. So Darius Slay is your starting corner with Zach McPherson as his backup. Keely Ringo is the starter on the outside, which I wouldn't be mad at for Con. I want to put that out there. I'll be fine with it. Isaiah Rogers behind him. Eli Ricks there. Quinya Mitchell in the nickel with Cooper DeJean behind him. Right. We'll do it properly. Darius Slay at an all right camp. I'll tell you what, in Darius's credit, I think he won me over a little bit. Now, I think it's like one of my favorite things of when like, I have a strong take and someone can change my mind, whether it's a player performing or changing the way they are as a person in Darius's case. Like, I genuinely really had a dream about him the other night, not in a weird way, but just that he came on the show because he was tired of me slagging him off and we hashed it out. And I basically said, look, it's nothing personal. Pull your socks up a bit. And he was like, I respect that. Do you want to be my mate? Essentially, in, lack of a better term. But I think I was very negative towards Darius Slate and the way he carried himself on social media because it wasn't what a leader should do. Since Quinion Mitchell was drafted, I think that's changed. And I think he has started to embrace that leadership role a bit more. Maybe someone's just shaking him a bit. Maybe someone smacked him over the top of the head. Maybe he got hit in the head with a football and it's woken him up. I don't know. But he does seem to be a bit more tolerable, I think, now as a player. As a player on the field, again, one of the best corners of the last decade. I think that and being a leader in the secondary is very difficult. It's a hard thing to balance. So he's won me over a bit. His training camp growth for me has been off the field, and I'm very happy about that. Isaiah Rodgers has been another big winner, but I really feel like Isaiah Rodgers stamped his authority in OTAs, and then we haven't heard much from him during training camp. Like, whether that's just me imagining that, I don't know. But I couldn't tell you a lot about what Isaiah Rodgers has done this summer. But having said that, if he's still continuing to get daily reps at CB2, he must also not be doing anything bad. So, I think that's a very fair assumption that he's got that role in the locker. It will be Quinion Mitchell in the nickel, I presume, although he has been flexing outside over the last couple of days, which has been encouraging. The Eagles didn't want to overload him to start with, and they seem to now be just riding with a bit of confidence here that maybe, just maybe, they can put him in outside and he's going to be okay, because funny enough, that's what he did recently. I was sure Ringo won the job, said Win Sports. See, I didn't think he had. Oh, this is messing with my head today, this stream. I thought it was Rodgers. But having said that, if we're to go off who's had the stronger preseason, it's absolutely been Key Ringo. So if he hasn't won the job, I will be the first one down to the ballot box to cast my vote, because I think he has been nothing short of sensational. Again, one of training camp's biggest winners, without a shadow of a doubt. Just locked down everyone in week 1. I think the big difference in week 2 was that he did allow a few more completions, as any cornerback does, but there was never many yards after the catch. The ball would always come down right near the spot it was caught. And he did well at keeping plays in front of him, which is hard. So Ringo looked really, really solid. And I'd be all for having him CB2. I think he's got the requisite length. I love the fact he's a rangy corner. He's definitely a dinner cornerback and someone that you can lean on to pick off passes, to make plays on the back end, and to have confidence to, stick with receivers in the pocket down routes. So I'm all for it. I don't think he has the role from what I've been aware of. I thought it was Isaiah Rodgers, but if I'm wrong, I genuinely hope I am. It could just be me being a bit silly, but I would love for Ringo to get that spot. Quinion starting his value playing time because he no doubt's going to be the type of guy to follow a receiver from the slot to the outside. That's a very good point. That's a very, very good point, Isaac, and not one that, if I'm honest, I'd thought of. We know with this Vic Fangio system, they like to move guys around, and if they put Quinion on a specific receiver and they move, they're going to want to trust him to go outside without having to move back. So, yeah, I completely agree. That's a really, really astute observation. Now, Isaac, look at him, like he's growing his way into a PSN role, I reckon. And you can see him grinding towards it. Jay Fizz, nice to see you, man. It's been a while. Happy to see you back. Happy to see you back. I'm happy to see you back. I feel good about the defense. I feel weirdly better about the defense than the offense. I thought the offense was sort of a no-brainer because of the star power they've got. Like, again, it would take something kind of special to have that not running functionally. Defensively, I think, if anything, it's the depth that stood out. Like, I miss, for instance, the total inside linebacker position. We'll get to that in a minute. But guys I didn't expect to have the biggest training camps in the world have done well. Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Jalix Hunt, Zach Bourne. Oh, I hate saying that name. Jeremiah Trotter is another one. Keedy Ringo is another one. There's 6 guys, and they aren't starters, really. Or like Jordan Davis is, but like not many of them are starters. They're all like, going into their role over time, and they've all played pretty well. So I think the defense is in good shape. We'll quickly move on to inside linebacker while we're on the topic. Devin White is going to be a starter, and I called it. I called it very, very early on, and this is the biggest win of the offseason. I might get stuff wrong with the draft. I might be a little bit hit and miss, but I know a baller when I see one. And Zach Bourne, when we put on that tape, when we watched it on this stream, you, me, and Dupree together, I said he's going to be a problem. He's going to have a role in this defense. It would not surprise me if he gets a starting role, and he has. Fair play to him. I'm genuinely elated because I think he's going to be a great player. He's not going to be a generational linebacker. He's not going to get a $50 million a year contract off the bat. I see him as a Camus Grugier-Hill level linebacker that will be serviceable, that will be very cheap, that can grow into a defense and is quick enough to handle multi-facets of the game. So I'm buzzing like an excited bumblebee that he has grown into that role. Behind them, Nakobe Dean, Jeremiah Trotter, again, two other guys that have stepped up. Nakobe was a bit of a slow starter, but has really picked up the pace over the last couple of weeks. Jeremiah Trotter wasn't his biggest fan. Did not want him in the second round because I'm not absolutely crazy. But I will say, he's looked better in training camp. I still think he's a bit slow. I still think, like, not athletically, but just in terms of diagnosing. A lot of people are saying his instincts are good. I don't think it's the instinct. It's that when he commits, the actual ability to go is good, right? Like, if I said, it's like going 3, 2, 1, go, and someone running, he's great. But if you were to anticipate when the go's coming, I don't think that's as great. So, look, I think Trotter's look good. I think he's tackling very well. He's getting better confidence-wise in terms of diagnosing plays. I think it just takes him an extra half second to pull the trigger on something. Liam, when evaluating linebackers, I can't tell if he's actually being nice for a change now. I genuinely can't tell if he's actually being nice for a change. Oh, I see. Lehman, yeah, he was being nice for a change. Yeah, but it's weird, though, because I don't think I'm that good at identifying linebackers. Who was the guy that we watched from Temple who had the worst tape ever, and he ended up getting drafted? I want to see how he's getting on. Can we have a look? Sorry, I know we're interrupting the stream here, but I need to have a look what this guy's doing. He was the worst player I've ever seen in my entire life, and I just need to know what he's up to. If he's a lock to make the roster, if he's been a bum. A simple Twitter. Jordan McGee, that's the one. Can someone Twitter search Jordan McGee and tell me how he's doing? Because I need to know if I've had a gross misfire or if he's actually terrible and stolen money from a franchise. Because that is a bank level heist that he could have just stolen. I think JT Jr. is slower simply because the NFL speed's a lot higher. I'd say yeah, but I also felt the same with his college tape. So it could be something that with NFL coaching, they get him up to. And I think that's the hope because athletically, physically, he's got it there. And when he commits, he's very good. It's the speed of it and the processing. I think instincts and processing are a bit different. So I would say, yeah, if I can get him up to there, then he'll be great. Compared to the tape you watched, I feel like Trott's playing faster than he did in college. That's a shout. I think it's probably a combination of that and what Wynn said. Like, he could be playing faster, but because, like, all right, put it this way. You move from a D2 football team to a D1 football team because you're good enough for D1. But then D1 plays better, so you're still, like, not the top. You know what I mean? You go from being a big fish in a little pond to just a fish in a pond, you know? It's a lot harder to stand out. So I would say that's probably what we're seeing with Trott at the minute is just that he is getting better. And because he did look good. That first preseason game, again, hold my hands up. He looked really good out there and it was exciting to see. I just think that if you now dropped him back into a college game and he had a season playing like he is and looking like he is, he probably would be a second round pick. He probably would be a second round pick. If you had a whole year, a campaign to build on with what he's just learned over the summer, I think he would. But now he's in the NFL and the talent pool's higher. It looks like he hasn't taken that step, if that makes sense. So in another year or two, I think he will. Like, I will say that. I think that long term, I think I'm a JT Jr. believer, which is something I never thought I'd say. But he's got it there. The coaches have to get it out of him, and I think they can. I think Jay Fizz said he has to stay healthy. I'm assuming that's about Nakobe Dean. That is going to be the wild card for him. Like, he has to get this right now. Third year, no excuses. You allowed the rookie stumble. Second year, week one, Nakobe Dean was a menace, right? That week one game, he looked excellent. And then he got injured, and we've not seen him perform anywhere near that level until just now at training camp. So I'm hoping for big things. Safety, I think, is the only position we haven't done because I refuse to mention Oren Burks, who I think I'm praying will just be a special teamer. Has looked okay, but I hate to say he looks okay because I know how shoddy he was for the Niners, but he's a special teams ace. That's kind of what he's been. Someone like him, Taron Jackson, Patrick Johnson would be guys that will fit that mold quite nicely. Safety, still a bit of a weird one because Caden Stearns is injured. But Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Reed Blankenship will be a starting duo. Sidney Brown will probably start the year on IR and come back. Reed's had a quiet training camp. Again, I don't think I've seen a single report about Reed Blankenship at all, ever. I don't think he's played a preseason snap. I don't think he's played a training camp snap. I think he's just been at home playing Fortnite. I've not seen him. Avonte Maddox being back at safety to me is weird. I'm hoping he's better in the scheme because the last time he was at safety, I'm not being hyperbolic, I think it almost ruined his career. And the fact that then he got emergency pulled down into the slot is where he got the extension. Because then they suddenly went, oh, he can play. He can play better. Oh, lovely. And I think that saved him. Like knowing that a slot cornerback plays better in the slot probably saved his career. And I think since then he's been fine. Obviously, injuries have had a setback. James Bradbury, he looked terrible in the preseason game I watched. I saw someone on Twitter get a semi-popular post saying like, "Oh, everyone's so quick to talk about James Bradbury and the bad stuff. What about the good stuff? What good stuff, bro? What good stuff has he done at all in a year and a half? Because I can't think of any." So, yeah, I can see him being cut at this point or traded. I'm hoping for one of them. I go to bed every night with a little prayer circle around me of James Bradbury jerseys, hoping that some team sweeps in and one day I wake up and they're Carolina Panthers jerseys with his name on the back. But a man can wish. I think the wild card here will be Caden Stearns. And if I'm honest, I feel like the Caden Stearns injury has kept James Bradbury on the roster. I really think that a Fangio player that was very, very good as a rookie in that system before injury concerns could have been a dream little pickup there on the cheap to slot in and be a depth option. But because he's been questionable, because he's missed time, it's led, James to just sprint around like a cow after a line and not know what he's doing in an open field. So there's that. Zach McPherson is somehow still on this roster. I couldn't tell you how. I think that comes to an end. I would rather keep Josh Jobe over him. Cooper DeJean, I'm assuming will start the year at safety and then move down to the nickel to support Mitchell when Brown returns. Then that way you've got both options locked up. And they've got Maddox there if they need him. Like, it's a bit worrying that both your nickel corners would be rookies. I'd rather have Maddox at one and DeJean at the other, but they don't want to overload DeJean year one, which does make sense. So that's about that. Parry Nickerson, great name. Sean Stevens wasn't great against the Patriots. I remember that. He wasn't great. Andre Sam. Got two first names there. Tristan McCullum. He was all right. I'll give him that. I'll tell you, one player I was disappointed at before we leave this was Tyler Hall. I genuinely thought Tyler Hall might be a starting corner for this team. Coming off a good stint with the Raiders, again, played at the NFL level as a starter for a while, did so pretty well, didn't make a single noise, not a single solitary noise, and that sucked. So that one let me down. But overall, I would say there's more winners than losers. I would say this team looks good. Shaping the 53-man roster is going to be easy down to like the final 6. Like, you can probably pick 40 players out of them with your eyes shut, and that's very good. Like, there isn't a lot up for debate. The only real spots up for debate are wide receiver 3 and the 2 guys in behind, the offensive line, because you need depth and there isn't a lot of it, and in the secondary. Outside of that, I think that the rest of the team, and Kenny Pickett needing a roster spot. Outside of that, the rest of the team, I think, is sitting bloody pretty right now. So On that very positive note, that is the end of the stream. Training camp has been and gone. I unfortunately will not be streaming the watch along on Saturday. Not here. I'm in London for AEW All In at Wembley. It's my yearly vacation. I say vacation, it's 2 days. Like, I don't take holidays. I'm not a sicko. I'm a sicko for the grind. All right. I don't need palm trees. I need tape. I need film and wrestling. So yeah, I'll be at AEW. And to answer Eric's earlier question, sorry I got a bit locked in there. I do believe in Joe Hendry. I loved him in TNA. I think he's been brilliant. Yeah, it's cool to see him and get a run in NXT. Like, I'm really glad they're pulling the trigger on him and giving him some exposure. So yeah, man, super cool. Like, his entrance song legitimately hit like the top 30 chart here. Like, it was a charted song being played on the radio. It was amazing. So big believer. But yeah, I'll be at AEW on Sunday at Wembley. So that'll be fun. And I'm watching Charlton play on the Saturday. So if anyone fancies flying from America to watch a terrible football team or soccer team play, feel free. I will buy you a pint of beer. If not, I'll see you on Friday. I will do one more before we go. And we'll preview the watch along. We'll preview the game. I'm pretty sure Brian and company will be doing a stream on Saturday morning to preview the game as well, as like a little primer for it. So you're going to have plenty of Eagles content. But that's it. Training camp's in the books. We now turn our heads to one more preseason bout before the regular season. I can't wait. I know you can't either. Guys, thank you for hanging out with me this evening and breaking down the roster. If you could leave a like on your way out, that would be lovely. Just, hit that thumb blue, just like you're turning in your popcorn at the end of the cinema. If you don't, I will hold it against you forever. Enjoy your evening. Thank you again. And I will see you on Friday to preview the final preseason game against the Vikings and look at which players need to make their statement, need to make their moves in order to solidify a roster spot. I've been Liam Jenkins. You've been the best. I'll see you later.